Hey there, everyone. Another massive day today that we get to find out the Fed's interest rate decision, and even more importantly, the commentary from Jerome Powell at 2:30. Got our fingers crossed that soft landing is what gets taken away from it, and that we see that easing of monetary policy, spurring on some economic growth, which should help to support the labor market, which hopefully is also going along with some softer inflation data. So as long as we have those are the four pillars that really prop up and catalyze markets when all four of them hit in a big way. So we've seen a lot of run up, still very bullish on this market. We'll see if that general direction is still upward from here. That's the big question to be answered. I'm going to give an update on the overall markets, and then also I want to talk about Big Bear AI, give an update on that one to talk about what we need to do to keep this price climbing higher from just that 16.7% pop that we saw yesterday, and where it could potentially go from here. It does have some hurdles to face. Guys, let's get into it. By the way, over at the Discord, you can find my transactions over there to see how I'm playing this market. And then you also have the other panel experts over there as well, supporting a community of thousands already who absolutely love the ecosystem that's there to support them in their journey towards financial freedom, building alpha in their portfolios. So here's the daily chart for the Qs. You can see in the pre-market hours, we are softening just a little bit, and that's usually expected on when you have a big news day like you do today. So you could see it with economic reports. You can see it with the Fed meetings coming up. Anytime the market has some expected catalyst coming its way and it's a little bit nervous about it, less than versus excited about it, and we are nervous a little bit with what Jerome Powell has to say, you usually see a little bit of that softening, a little bit of that give back. And I will say this, that leading up to that time, we might see this movement followed by that one if we get something favorable for what Jerome Powell has to say. If we get something that really surprises us in a bad way, yeah, that can happen. That we can head downward. I still think that upwards, that general direction, but I'll update that feeling and that sentiment depending on what we hear, and then I'll support it with reasons why that sentiment might shift for me or what we get from Jerome Powell. So if you subscribe and see the videos as they come out, you'll certainly get that commentary as well. For IWM, here we go on the daily chart. As we look at this, we still have indecision happening for us on Monday, happening for us on Tuesday. We need to see what happens today in the market. Will we finally break up above that and then put in a strong conviction candle to the north, climb higher towards that 248 price target that I have on this, or is it one that's going to fall down to the south? If we do fall down south, watch for a loss of the 5 and the 13 EMAs. If we confirm below those and get them to cross down over each other, the 5 down over the 13, that would be that bearish signal. We can look for it in the Qs, we can look for it in IWM, we can even look for it in things like Bitcoin. So for Bitcoin, for the crypto market, you can see the nervousness that it has, also the excitement. It's like, well, I'm going to come back to about this neutral area here where I'm fairly de-risked in terms of the all-time highs that we had before. That would be up north of 124,000. However, also not terribly positioned in order to sell this thing off anyway. So we can see it right along this bottom of the shelf. I talked about it in the video that I did last time, right along here where we saw all of that buying pressure before. Now we're stuck at resistance, probably until we hear Jerome Powell speak, and we'll probably get more of a definitive answer. So for Bitcoin to the north, we have this price area up here from about 120 up to 124,000. If we can move up above that on strong momentum, we should be able to sit on top of it, enabling that price target of 150,000 that I have for the end of 2025 to take place. Big day to see whether or not I have to keep that 150,000 or if I might have to change it. And it could be based on the sentiment, the feeling that Jerome Powell puts out there and the messaging that the Fed does. And without getting into too much detail, he might actually scare the markets at first, and the markets would be like, big scare, and then run up anyway after it shakes money out of people's hands. So just be aware that is something that happens, something that could continue to happen. So for Big Bear AI, taking a look at its most recent peak all the way down to the bottomest bottom that we have on here. Actually, let me adjust it one tick. There we go. Just on the daily chart that we're looking at. So we actually were up at a peak of $8.72 per share. We came down almost to the 200 EMA on this thing. Let me see where the SMA was for you. Pretty much right at that same spot. De-risked all the way back down to the 200. Took a huge bounce off that so far. So what were we able to overtake during this time? Let me take down some of these other technicals for you so that way you guys can see a little bit more clearly the things that I'm looking at. There we go. In terms of that price action, we'll take down some of the moving averages and just focus on what we see so far. So off that bottom, off that support that we had down there, We moved back up significantly, crossing the 23.6. We have the 38.2 up there. Why didn't we touch the 38.2 when we had such a strong volume move? Just look a little bit left. Over here, you can see that massive gap that we put in and all the buying pressure that came in around those areas when we look historically back to June and then July and then this bottom that we have here in August. So those 3 months dates that are in there that are around that 38.2 level and also that previous peak, we're going to have some trouble probably with that 38.2 up to that $6.20. But if we can sit on top of it, that's where we can really find ourselves in this area where we get a little bit more free rise up to about 717. So if we can sit on top of 620, we get about another dollar squeezed out of that. And that's pretty darn good for a stock that right now is still priced under $6 to make a $1 leap from that 620 level. If we can hold it up to that 717, so what's that? That's 10. That's like 17% on top of it yet. So that would be a very nice climb for us to see a push that high from that $6 level up to that $7 level. So that's what I'm looking for. Watch for that break of 620. We need to sit on top of 620. Now, if I were to put some mess back up here for you, I would show these other Fibonacci retracement levels because you can see the knot, the tangle, the mess that they make for us, which coincides with these bottom troughs that we have here for it. And then we have another tight entanglement up here for an area of resistance from about that 717 level up to about 730. And it gets a little bit looser up here. But like I said, let me take those down for a moment and put up the fib extensions for you, because when we do that, you can see just a little bit more detail of those big numbers. This one actually shows up to that 735 level is where we could climb off of this bottom that we have down here, which was right at that 480, which made for part of that area of support that we had. But we got to get on top of 620 first. If we drop down to more of an intraday look at BigBear.ai, just to see how things have gone, you guys can see the descension that we were on. You can also see when I talked about that break in structure. So I said, hey, this break in structure is a good thing. We're starting to see the consolidation on low volume. Watch for us to break above or below it. Well, we broke above it and we did so on volume. So we broke above on volume, more volume. And then yesterday, fairly massive volume on a relative level that we're looking at here, moving us back up to the north side. And also on this intraday chart, you can see a little bit more clearly how this peak over here coincides with this trough that we had going all the way back to August the 1st. So for BigBear.ai, what's coming its way? Well, so far, without evidence of a lot of news coming its way, maybe there's just speculation. Honestly, I think it's been a technical bounce so far. If we got a news catalyst to go along with it, that could be very good for us to seeing prices much farther north with a lot more conviction than just the volume and what we see for the moving averages and what we see for support and resistance. This is one that could give us that nice little technical bounce. We can experience some of that upside, but just know that we got to watch those volumes to see the conviction in those plays as well. Got a good move so far. It's possible we give a little bit back today. Maybe we pull back to that 23.6. We're going to have to watch it. But until we sit on top of that 38.2, we really don't unlock the next price level. And it's really important that people pay attention to that, because that's going to explain a lot about the future price action that we get. So also keep in mind the background market bias that we have for the Qs for IWM. That's going to tell us a lot. And the SPY too, I don't mean to discount that one. But I will say that in terms of outperformance, those are some of the areas where we might actually see more of the outperformance. IWM is one of my favorites. If we go into a risk-on environment with lots of liquidity, with cheap, easy to borrow money, low inflation, IWM should continue to outperform throughout the rest of 2025. Very excited about it. Small caps, penny stocks should also enjoy a run like that. So I'm very interested to see what we get today. And that background market bias will do a lot to inform further price action that we see to support further price action, or it could also hinder it if that market bias starts to drag things down. BigBear.ai could also be dragged down right along with that biased result. So guys, thank you very much for watching. Come on over and join me and the other expert panelists, the community members over at the Discord to support you in your journey towards financial freedom, building alpha in your portfolio. And if you want to learn how to produce these technicals, how to trade using these technicals, how to use options to really outsize your gains and use that leverage to your advantage, there's some coursework through StockMo Academy. That link is down in the description as well. Code word DOCTOR, DOCTOR, when you sign up for those courses, we'll give you a $400 discount. And if you do the bundle of the courses, you get an even deeper discount on top of that, a true value to you, an investment in yourself for pushing yourself further financially. And then code word doctor also does work on that Discord as well. That Discord sign up will give you 50% off your first month sign up when you use the earner tier with that link in the description. Guys, thank you very much for watching. I am Dr. Stock, Doctor of Education. Remember, my friends, that learning is earning, and we'll see you in the next video.